Fish and Chums!
Hey everybody, Gary Heidrich here for this week's Fish and Chums Fishing Report. First part of November already. Can you believe this? Wow. Well, we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to try to cover 6 lakes here in a hurry. And we're going to start out at Truman Lake because the crappie fishing continues to be pretty good at Truman. Changed over the last couple of weeks. The last couple of weeks, 3 weeks, they've been out in the pole timber around the flats in about 15, 20, 22 feet of water. The crappie have been chasing shad back around this pole timber, and if you're sitting in the right spot at the right time, jig and minnow combination, you can pick up a few crappie in a hurry. They're still doing that, don't get me wrong, but I'm telling you, out at Truman on the bluff ends, the bluff points, boy, it's really improved this last few days. And what's happening, anytime you can find a bluff point, bluff end, and with a cedar, some cedar activity, some laydowns, some logs, hey, I tell you, you're going to catch a few crappie here, this is for sure. And they've been pitching more swim baits, crappie swim baits, about a 3-inch tail, 4-inch tail, mostly a 16th ounce jig. I like the chartreuse orange colored head, or a little bit of color in that tail. Pitch that out along the bluff ends, count it down 4 or 5, and then just swim it by. Swim it by those cedar trees, those trees and so forth, logs. Hey, you're going to have a chance of picking up some crappie, this is for sure. So they're catching crappie a variety of ways at Truman, the flats, the poles, timber, the bluffs, and isolated cedar trees. They've been picking up some crappie as well at Truman. Try it this weekend. Boy, it's going to be a nice weekend. Ooh, boy. Okay, let's go to the Lake of the Ozarks. Just like the last 3 weeks, there's still some big crappie being caught at Lake of the Ozarks. Now, if you like to dock fish around the big condo docks, I've been talking about this the last 3 weeks. They've been swimming minnows or pitching jigs out, counting it down, swimming it back. But I tell you that the shoreline, with any kind of a brush or laydowns, anything around 4, 6, 8, 10 feet of water, pitch that jig up there, bring it to the laydowns or the brush piles, jig it back to the boat, and bam. I tell you what, they're catching some big crappie at Lake of the Ozarks. At times you may not catch a bunch of them, but who cares if you catch a few of these jobs? Hey, it's well worth your trip out there. So try Lake of the Ozarks. And by the way, bass fishing's picking up out there on football jigs, little topwater action in the morning, and even some crankbait. So look over Lake of the Ozarks this weekend. Let's go over to Bull Shoals. Well, Mid-Lake area had a good report. A variety of baits have been working right now. I want to tell you this thing about all these lakes this last week. It's been windy, it's been cool, not a lot of people out on the water, but the people who are going out are catching some fish. Let me clarify that right now. So Bull Shoals, I'll tell you what I do this weekend. They've been picking up some fish out there on crankbaits. And wiggleworts, you bet, it's that time of year, it's getting there. Wiggleworts are picking up some fish on the bluff ends and along the bluffs. And spinnerbaits, I'd put my boat out in about 15, 20 feet of water, folks. I'd take a good tandem spinnerbait, pitch it up onto that bank, kind of burn it back, and then when it gets a little bit deeper water, slow it down, slow roll that spinnerbait. And especially with this wind, you're going to catch some fish on spinnerbaits at Bull Shoals this weekend, and back in the creek arms too. Spinnerbaits, crankbaits, square bill crankbaits. Try this, and some football jigs too. Hey, Bull Shoals looks good for bass fishing this upcoming weekend. Few crappie being caught out there, mainly in submerged brush piles, 15, 18, 20 feet of water. If you know where those brush piles are, get vertically fish those with a jig and minnow combination. You can pick up some nice crappie. Not taking a lot of crappie out there, but the ones are pretty nice size at Bull Shoals. Check this out for the weekend. Hey, I was on Taneycomo the other day and picked up a few nice trout. I can't say nice, well, they're kind of nice. Anywhere from half a pound to a pound. Nothing big being caught out there right now. Once in a while somebody will catch a bigger one. But Taneycomo's providing some trout fishing, but it is slower than it has been for the last couple of weeks, but they're still catching them. I'll tell you what I found out the other day. You know, night crawlers, if fishing's tough like it can be right now, go to night crawlers. But the secret is Don't use that big night crawler. Cut it down to about a third, just a couple inches. Put it on a small hook, a little split shot up above it. They haven't been running too much water out there. Flip that jig out, let it fall, and just work it back to the boat. Or take your electric motor, pitch it out, let it fall, and kind of drag it along. The small night crawlers, but get them down there, get them down there. Don't use that whole big one, that's for sure. And the same thing we've been saying for weeks here, that Berkeley trout worm, that pink trout worm, about 4 inches long, it's still catching some fish. Now it seems like when they're not running water, and they haven't been running a lot of water, just use a float up above that Berkeley trout jig, and maybe 4 or 5 feet. Pitch it out there, let it set, and just kind of twitch it once in a while. That's picking up some fish. The other day I picked some fish up there on that Berkeley pink power worm by just using 4-pound test, a little split shot up above my hook, and taking that power worm and cutting it in half and just putting it kind of wacky worm style right in the middle of that remaining worm. And so pitch that out, drag it with your electric motor, or pitch it out and kind of work it back to the boat. Might pay for you. It worked for me. Try this. Okay, Table Rock Lake, a variety of things is happening out here. They're still picking up some fish at times on top water, and they should be for this time of the year, so always keep an extra rod and reel handy. I love pop-Rs out at Table Rock. They've been picking up a few fish on whopper floppers, the small spook. But anyway, whatever your favorite topwater bait, have it handy because you never know when a little school may come up. Still picking up fish on drop shots. They may not be big fish, and there's not a lot of huge fish being caught on Table Rock right now. Get out on those long gravel points, get out there a little bit deeper, 25, 35, maybe 40 feet of water. Use your favorite 4-inch plastic worm and get out there, drop shot it, and you may pick up a few fish by doing this. Who knows, you may catch a keeper. Up in the James River arm, I've had a couple different reports of some buzzbait fish being caught. You may check this out if there's just a little bit of breeze, and we haven't had no trouble with that. And try this spinnerbait bite up there in the James River arm as well. Pitch that out shallow. You may not get bit shallow, so kind of burn it shallow. When you get a little bit deeper water, slow it down, slow roll it, come by logs, trees, brush. You might pick yourself up a fish by doing this. Some crankbait fish starting to show up too for bass fishing is concerned out at Table Rock. So things are starting to happen. It's not gangbusters, not catching a lot of big fish, but you are catching some fish. And by the way, the water temperature at Bull Shoals and Table Rock around 60 degrees. How about that? It's really starting to drop. And so fishing may not be gangbusters this weekend, but I think it's going to be good enough weather to get out and at least try it. I think you're going to get bit. One of those big crappie at Lake the Ozarks. Woo, I'm thinking about that. Truman, Bull Shoals, Tanica, they're all, I tell you, let's go. How about that? That's it for the day. We want to thank you very much for being with us here on Fishing Chums. By the way, be sure to like and share and subscribe. If you have some friends that might think you might like this old country show, we talk about all types of different species of fish. Give them a call. Say, check us out. And if you like us, just push that subscribe button. It's absolutely free. If you like to email us, we're getting emails all the time. I'm going to read some next week or two. And asking questions, sending photos, do so. Just email us at fishingchums@gmail.com. Going to be a good weekend. Let's get out and get bit, everybody. God bless you. See you next week. Happy outdoors.